okay, it's on. Now you can go.
Okay, here we go. In a 1, in a 2. Oh, wait, you mean to tell me you didn't get anything for the cold open?
No, that is what I'm saying. I have nothing for the cold open.
Now you do.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by Soccer 90. The new international club jerseys will be arriving the entire month of June, so get ready because the new Juventus home jersey is available now in both youth and adult sizes, and maybe they'll have Weston McKennie's name and number ready for you. And don't forget, when you're ready to check out, Third Degree listeners get 25% off your entire purchase. You just use the code Third Degree when you're checking out at soccer90.com. Why, hi, hello, you FC Dallas Curious fan. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Third Degree, the podcast. I'm Peter. How you doing? And I'm joined by my two soccer-talking friends. First, Dan Crook.
Hold on. You sound way too excited and eager after a 3-0 loss. That's crazy.
Just stick with me, Dan. I'm trying to put on a happy face.
I'll have a pint of whatever you're having.
And everybody's hero, editor and founder of thirddegree.net, the good Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hello, Peter. Sitting here enjoying the last of the Old Major bacon-flavored bourbon that was so spectacularly good.
You drank all of it, huh?
Well, all but the last. I got a last little bit left. I'm enjoying here.
So let's see. That lasted you, that entire gallon jug.
It's not a gallon.
It came in like a milk jug kind of size thing, right?
No.
And so you drank that in what, 3 days?
No, it's just a regular bottle, and I drank it over like 2 months.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, the original Burn fan initially posted this and pointed out at 1 win, 3 draws, and 3 losses, the 2021 FC Dallas team has now tied the 2003 Dallas Burn at the same record, and we all know that went down as the worst season in this club's history. That team, by the way, ended up with only 23 points. They had a goal differential of, oh my gosh, negative 29. And just for a kick in the sack, they also got knocked out in their first game of the U.S. Open Cup against the Wilmington Hammerheads.
Yeah.
And lost that game 4-1. So this is where I'm going to count on you, the good Buzz Carrick, to spread a little of your optimism and hope, because you seem to feel this isn't as bad a trash fire as it appears to be to the rest of us.
Well, it's not as bad a trash fire as 2003. Well, no, listen, I'm a big believer actually in the expression, you are what your record says you are. But at the same time, the things around the team are not a trash fire like they were in 2003. 2003 was doomed because of the Southlake debacle and everything that went with it. That team was screwed from the get-go, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then the club started making panic moves, and it got worse and worse and worse. So this is not that, in the sense that there are some problems with this team, but a couple of them are fixable with just people getting healthy, and a couple of them are fixable with the next transfer window. So I don't think we're looking at a Southlake team. That being said, even if we'll talk about it later, I have this plan. I called it a 5-part plan. If everything in the plan goes right, you're still just looking at a mid-table team scrapping to make the playoffs. This team is far, far, far from being a team that can compete to actually win a championship, which is odd because the entire front office and coaching staff all talked about this winter, how they felt like they had a great team to compete for a title. I think they're crazy, but that's where we are.
So, Dan, just taking what Buzz just said about the reality of even if they fix this, it's still a mid-table team, and then you throw in the fact that this is Lucci's 3rd year, and whether or not the front office truly believed that this was a highly competitive team, where would you largely place the blame for what we've gotten to start off this season?
I mean, I think you kind of have to look at coaching decisions. Players who aren't performing in the lineup that have stayed in the lineup, some strange substitutions, interesting formation choices. I think it will kind of, unfortunately, comes back to the technical staff, well, the technical staff on the bench and Zanata.
All right. So, Buzz, you and I were going back and forth in our group chat earlier today. And I don't think you'll mind me sharing that you didn't seem to think that Lucci's coaching situation was even one of the top 5 problems with this team.
No, not top 5. Well,
really?
maybe it can be 5th, maybe. It's not top 4. There's significant roster problems right now, some of which are related to people not being healthy. But Lucci's not playing with a full roster. There's a missing DP. There's open roster spots. There's multiple positions that were vacated by sales and not replaced adequately. Those things aren't on Lucci. Now, Lucci's made some mystifying subs. He's tried some tactics that I think he's crazy to have tried. So there's definitely some blame on Lucci, but at the same time, he also has made a couple of changes that have really helped the team the last 2 games. So Lucci's a mixed bag, but we knew Lucci was going to be a mixed bag when he was hired 3 years ago. When you hire a guy with no experience at all, you're going to get a mixed bag. Such is life. The reason this team is in last place versus its last 2 years when it was mid-table are because they've made some moves with this roster that have not panned out, and that's not Lucci's fault.
All right, well, maybe we'll get back into that a little bit more, but let's dive into the loss in Colorado, which was not pretty in any way, shape, or form, and certainly continues the weird trend that Colorado always seems to have Dallas's number over the years in some way, in some form or shape. And Colorado, by the way, was missing a couple of key ingredients in their lineup, including Kellen Acosta, who's out on national team duty. And Colorado just seemed to do very well what they do. It isn't necessarily beautiful, but it works for them, and it worked really well. But again, Buzz, based on your instant reaction video, you really were kind of suggesting that Dallas has something good happening. In fact, you told people on your instant reactions not to allow the final result to cloud the good things that are happening. And so I'm going to ask you, what are those good things?
Well, Oscar Pereja always said that when you are evaluating how your team's playing, that you have to pretty much throw out goals. Now, goals are all that matters in the reality. You have to win, you have to score. So that's hugely important, and we're not going to completely throw it out. But there's an analysis that can be done of how the team is playing and whether the team is getting better. Now, in the context, and we're here, remember, on this, at least for me anyway, this team, podcasting, and what we do at Third Degree, is all about context. So the first however much of the season, I guess it was 5 games because we played 7. Is that right, Dan? The first 5 games of the season, we talked a lot about lack of touches in the front line, lack of scoring opportunities, lack of chance creation. Well, Lucci changed the formation. He changed tweaked the tactical situation with Acosta and with Frank O'Hara. And in the last 2 games, they've had 29 shots the last game and 21 shots in this game. The previous high on the year was 13. So, in the context of a last-place team wanting to get better, they are playing good soccer from box to box, and they are creating scoring opportunities. So, don't let the fact that they lost and the front line stinks destroy the fact that Lucci made a tactical adjustment that worked and that the midfield is playing considerably better and creating the opportunities they were not creating before. That now highlights the fact that the front line stinks, and it's time to make some changes. So I'm not trying to say that this team's going to be great. I'm not trying to say that you should ignore the bad things, because the bad things are important. I'm just saying that those bad things don't invalidate the good things.
Okay. So I was really frustrated in watching this game, and this is part of what I'm most mystified that I can't – I mean, does this really come down to the idea that Dallas has Ricarte and Acosta kind of is the soccer version of male nipples. You know, if you look at them on the chest, they could, if you look at them in the right way, be kind of attractive, but in reality, they serve zero purpose. And that's only because they're essentially trying to play soccer with three guys up front that are no better than Sunday league punters. Is that really what the problem is with this team?
I mean, that's what I think it is. And the fact that if you have Acosta playing the best soccer of his career, and since they've made this tweak, moving Acosta higher, that's freed up Ricarte. And he now has, like the metric I like to talk about lately, which is the 11 key passes among his awesome play. Though that's one that really jumps out at you. He also leads the team in pressures all the time, which I find amazing. He has 11 of the last 2 games. So, like, the things are going well in soccer terms for those 2 guys. You know, for the lack of a real 6 behind them, it really is remarkable that those 2 dudes are playing so well. Now, if you're in a bad team, which is what this team clearly is, then the other deficiencies can overwrite and mask up the fact that those 2 guys are playing really well. So, like, you don't want to fix those 2 guys. They're fine. You just got to fix a couple other things and you'll be fine. You'll be fine in terms of mid-table FC Dallas under Lucci fine. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, win MLS Cup or anything, but...
All right, I was going to hold on, Dan. I want to ask you this question: Is Buzz trying to tell us that Ricarte and Acosta are like Pirlo and Iniesta, and they're just not fairly treated, or we're just not recognizing that?
No, they're not that slow. No, I mean that's well played. No, I mean Acosta has played brilliantly on both sides of the ball. Ricarte has definitely played better. I don't necessarily put as much stock in the key passes. You know, 4 of those came from corners. Had none in the second half. Also didn't like that he fluffed that really nice, easy header 40 seconds into the game. But you know, the shift in midfield has definitely helped open his game up and kind of put him in those positions you want him to get and put the ball in the positions that they signed him to put them into. You know, I mean, Buzz is right. You don't let the bad cloud the good, or otherwise it's, you know, that, you know, they had a pretty solid game in places. They just couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo.
All right, so is it a function of all 3 guys across the front just being crap? Is it if just one of them was in good form and finishing, would we be ignoring the other 2, or is this really just coming down to what my opinion is, which is Jara just simply has the yips? Like, that's a guy who's so in his own head and just can't finish. And I'm not ever, you know, and I got a whole other question about his history of finishing that I'm unfamiliar with, and I just can't quite. First off, I'm not convinced any of the 3 are really all that good. 2 of which are young and new to the league, and I'm questioning their overall potential. Period. The third, Jara, and by the way, I love the nickname in the Discord that came up, which is Horrible. That's. I don't know who did that in the Discord group, but props to you, and I will point it out to me who it was, and we'll mention you next time in the next pod. But I just think that guy's got the yips.
I'm not even going to go far as to say the yips. I just don't think he has enough juice left in the tank to be able to separate on his own at all. And then when he gets into a good position, he's just not clinical enough. He's not, you know, he could have had 4 or 5 on the day, and he could have had 3 15 minutes in.
Yeah, but hold on. But those 3 15 in, those were all relatively easy opportunities to finish, if I remember correctly. That's why I'm saying those are the yips, because I can't believe he's so bad that he can't even finish one of those 3 if he doesn't have the yips.
Well, here's the stat that Matt Doyle dropped this week that I thought was phenomenal. He has 1 non-penalty goal in his last 19 appearances. Right. Across all competitions. That's not the yips. That's you suck. The yips is like, you know, it's been a couple of games, then I just need one, right? And you know, and in his entire tenure, again, credit to Doyle, 2,100 minutes for Dallas. He has 6 non-penalty goals, and almost all those came last year when he had that little bit of a burst sort of in the second half after everyone was ripping him. You know, it's just the age and the mobility. This is a vertical league. It's a league that requires pace. You know, even one of the reasons why they had to make this tactical adjustment was because playing as a false nine, he didn't have enough burst or pace to take advantage of the false nining of the holes he was creating.
Right.
So it's like they put him back higher up the field, and now he doesn't have enough to bury these shots. And your guy, John Leonard, just wrote this great piece talking about, analytically speaking, that if Hara had scored 3 goals, his team would be mid-table, right? So again, there's fixable problems here, one of which is that your 9 stinks and he's getting paid $3 million a year and you're stuck with him for another season after this one. So look, a lot of ways, Lucci's hands are tied on this stuff. And I'm going to tell you what I think they should do with him here at the end later on in this podcast. But the bottom line is I don't think it's just him, though. Vargas is a little bit snake bit, but he's actually, good Lord, I can talk. Statistically, he was the best of the 3 last game. And for me, O'Brien, who I think could be a Castillo type guy, but right now he's so concerned about drawing a PK because he's trying to do it by himself that he's going down and he's complaining. He's sort of developing this reputation as a complainer. Well, the refs in this league are never going to call that stuff. He has to battle through a couple of those and get through and get some goals and show that you can play through it, and then maybe you'll establish yourself, and then maybe you can do some complaining. Whereas right now he's too focused on all this other crap and not just getting it done.
Well, I think he's frustrated, and again,
Yeah.
I'm not 100% he's good enough for this league, period. And I think I think throwing your arms up in the air and yelling and gesticulating in anger is just a sign that he doesn't know what else to do. I've yet to see him do anything super positive. Vargas, we saw something in the preseason that we've yet to see in a regular season game. O'Brien is a guy that I really would like to turn good, but after 7 games, Buzz, I got to say, I think the 2 dudes are busts. I think they're bad.
Well, 2 goals in 7 games for a winger is not bad. He's got 2 goals in a run and play.
Okay.
It's not, look, he's 7 games into his MLS career. Some guys take 6 months or a year to adapt. I think there's enough there with O'Brien that I'm not ready to give up on him. I do think he should sit a game, but I'm not ready to give up on him. He just needs to focus on playing and not this other crap. And I think he'll be fine. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he'll go the wrong way, but there's enough there that I'm not ready to dump him yet.
All right, I just want to point out that one of the goals that he did score, he shot it off his other leg and it bounced in the goal. Just FYI.
I mean, they don't on the score sheet. It doesn't indicate how he scores. All it says is you scored.
I know, but are you okay? All right, maybe I'm just being too harsh too early. We've been through the winger thing with this team for so long. Watched them just chew through winger after winger after winger and bring in guys that they told us were, top scorers in their South American or Central American league, and they showed up and they turned out to be, anywhere from pretty good to utter crap, and never anything better than that. And I just have a weird sense that these 2 guys are just in a continuation of that story after at least what I've seen in 7 games.
I mean, maybe, but 2 goals in 7 games is not throw the guy away. 2 goals in 7 games is, that's like what, 8 over 34. I mean, that's good for a wing. That's great. I mean, that would lead this team in scoring.
Well, they don't really have anybody else to play right wing anyway, do they?
I mean, Paxton maybe, but there's some guys you can stick over there. Dante Sealy.
For a bit of context, you're talking about O'Brien as a guy who was brought in to replace someone who was absolute crap for the first 6 months, and then was the team's best player for 5 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Dan. Although I think the real lead in that story is that you're describing Michael Barrios as the best player for 5 years. And if Michael Barrios is your best player, you don't have a very good team. As much as I, like Michael
Barrios. They didn't, but he was also finishing top of MLS at assists and goal, goals and assists. He was high up constantly. So, I mean,
And Castillo was crap, too. Granted, he was a lot younger, but he was crap for a while, too. A lot of guys are crap when they show up. You got to give them a chance. And 2 goals in 7 games is not utter crap. It's, that's fine.
How many assists do O'Brien and Vargas have between the 2 of them this season?
Oh, probably 0. I don't have the stats open in front of me, but it's got to be
I'm pretty
low.
sure I think it's 0, actually.
I wonder how many assists anybody on this team has.
Yeah. All right, Dan, I'm hoping you can help me shine a bright light on probably one of the better aspects of this team's abilities, set-piece play. Boy, this team is really good at free kicks and corner kicks, aren't they?
No comment.
By the way, I have two things for you, Peter. Guess who leads the team in assists?
Is it Ryan?
It's Paxton Pomacall with 2.
Holy crap! And how many minutes has he played?
Jack Squat, 190.
Yeah,
apparently. And by the way, they do have Weston McKinney names and numbers for the Juve kits. So,
good.
That's the item number 2.
Thank you for that. All right, so Buzz, why don't you? Because after I finished watching, I ended up watching the Colorado game really late, and it was like 1:00 in the morning by the time I was done, and I was really cheesed off at how bad the game was. And I remember writing in the group chat to you guys, can somebody just name one thing to me, literally? Just tell me one thing that either one of you, and I'll start with Dan, that you think Dallas is actually good at. One thing.
Surprising people with substitutions.
Okay. All right. Buzz? Come on, Buzz. Tell me one thing this team is good at.
I actually think the midfield's pretty good. I know you don't, but I think that Acosta and Ricarte combined with Tanner, who's playing out of position, is pretty good. I take that against most teams.
You keep saying they're really good, but all right. So what you're? I just want to make sure you and I are on the same page, because I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you, but I want to make sure that by saying that those 3 guys are, quote, really good means that everything that's wrong with this team is limited to the 3 guys in front of them.
Well, and the fact that the defense is not quite.
We haven't even gotten to the defense yet. Let's just talk about the attacking part of the team.
Right. No, I think that's true.
Okay, and you've promoted this a couple of times. You have a 5-point game plan to fix it, right? Is that what we're getting to?
Yeah, we're not getting there yet. We're just talking about. I'm talking about the midfield. If you create 29 shots in one game and 21 in the next game, your midfield is fine. There's nothing wrong with this midfield at all. Those 3 guys are perfectly capable players. If they that's part of the plan. Listen, the midfield is fine. Peter, the entire team doesn't suck. They are not the worst team in the history of the league. Parts of this team are good. They have a couple problems that have to be fixed. If you're going to try and tell me that every single phase of this team is utter dog shit, I'm going to tell you you're out of your fucking mind.
No, I'm not going to say that.
That's what you're saying. That is literally what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not even saying they're the worst team in the league.
Fight.
What I'm asking you is to tell me, because I want to know, because you seem to have a very positive vibe about this team, but when I watch it,
that's not
I feel like you quote good things happening. You keep talking about good things happening, and when I watch this team, I see a team that's regressed over the last 3 years.
You didn't listen to what I said. You didn't listen to what I said.
You said don't let the score.
I literally said don't let the bad things overwrite the good things. I didn't say everything is great.
I know you didn't say everything was great.
Yeah.
I'm not
so
putting
don't put words in my mouth. You are putting words in my mouth. That's not what I said.
I'm asking you. Don't get frustrated, Buzzard. I'm asking you if you, and I want to work with you on this. If the midfield is good, tell me what they're good at, because I don't understand what they're good at. I don't see it.
I literally have just spent 30 minutes telling you what they're good at. They've created scoring opportunities for this team because Acosta and Ricarte are both playing exceptional soccer, and Tanner Tessman is playing adequately as a 6, and his long passing is also helping create opportunities. Both of those guys, Acosta and Ricarte, are creating opportunities. They both are creating plenty of scoring chances. If you have 21 shots on the road, that is a crap ton of shots on the road. That is plenty good enough to be an excellent team in this league.
Okay. And that's why I asked you, and that's why I followed that up with. So you're saying that everything that's wrong with the team is limited to the 3 guys in front of them?
No, not everything. But the 3 things. You asked me for a good thing that's happening, and it's the midfield. The midfield is good.
All right.
That's my one thing that they're doing right good now. And for 30 minutes, I've been telling you why they're good and how they're good.
I'm just having a hard time believing you. So I figured if you just keep repeating it and I keep asking it, eventually I'll believe you.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you what's happening and what's true. You can believe me or not, because that's what's happening.
Where do you fall in this?
Well, what I was going to say is I think the best thing we can really say right now is this conflict resolution has been brought to you by Soccer 90. Weston McKinney name sets are available now in store.
You're so sweet.
No, I think, honestly, you're only as good as your last performance. I know you had a pretty fantastic rant in the group me, and I'd sent Buzz a message while I was watching it, because I ended up watching it on Sunday morning or early Sunday morning. I was like, I feel like I'm watching a different game than what was described. I think another three players up front, and that's a 4-3 or a 5-3. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't fantastic defensively, but there were plenty of chances there to at least get a couple of goals, or at least one. Likewise with RSL, I think there was some inept finishing away from running up a scoreline the same as you had a couple of years ago when they scored 6-2, and everyone was saying, "Why the hell isn't Christian Coleman on the field? Even he'll score."
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'm just the sourpuss. Let's move back a little bit towards the back end of the team. I do wonder, Buzz, about how you feel Lucci's handled the situation of holding mid. He's put Tessman there in many ways. Is Tanner doing a good job? I kind of got the feeling that, I don't know. Is Tanner doing a good job as the holding mid on this team?
He's doing okay. He's doing a nice job winning duels, which is not the same as winning tackles. He's not a natural tackler, so he's not crunching people. He's not, but he's doing a decent job of being in the right position. There are, in this last game, because he's not a natural six, he doesn't close quite as much. And there were a couple instances where wings did not track right back or left back from the other team, but that's not on him. And both center backs were not closing very well either. Martinez because he's hurt and Bressan because he's probably overcompensating. So that aspect isn't great, but Tanner brings to that spot that, say, for example, Edwin Cerrillo doesn't. If you played Edwin there, Edwin is a better tackler, he's a better ball winner, and he's really good about maintaining possession, like getting up quick and quickly finding another player to maintain the play. But Tanner can hit a line-breaking pass, a pass that can break the defense and can get you opportunities to score. So there's definitely a level of trust there that Lucci trusts Tanner over Edwin at this point. Maybe I suggest on one of my burns that Edwin needs to learn how to be a bastard on the field. He's not ruthless enough. He's not
right.
He's not a jerk. I remember how Oscar used to say of Simo, who was one of the nicest guys in the world, but on the field he was an utter bastard. So Cerrillo needs to learn some of that. So Tanner's doing fine. He's not doing well enough to make me think that the team doesn't need to upgrade at that position. 100% they've got it. That's one of the 5 things in my plan. So it's not that, but he's okay. And when you put him in combination with the other 2 guys, the midfield, I think for me is great. So it could be better. It could be better, but it's the best part of this team, frankly.
Well, let's talk about the 2 center backs, because obviously Hedges is hurt and wasn't in this game. And you mentioned that Martinez, or is it Martinez or Martinez?
It's Martinez, I think.
Okay. He is hurt. We know for sure that he's got some sort of muscle strain or something going on.
Well, I thought it was load management because he trained full out and he looked fine in training, but then they took him out, after like an hour or so. So I thought it was load management stuff. But then
2 games ago.
No, this was in practice. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
They took him out of practice early. And they took him out of the game. You're right. A week ago, they took him out of the game early. So I thought it was load management. But then in this last game, he clearly was laboring to go out and close on midfielders, and he clearly was laboring with Barrios. Of course, lots of people labor with Barrios, and they had to actually take him off for a few minutes. You can see him limping. So he's definitely got a problem. They haven't admitted what the problem is, but there's definitely a problem with him.
Oh, and the fact that they did eventually take him off and move Johnny Nelson into the center. Yeah,
I mean, the fact. This is one of the problems that we're going to get to in the plan is the fact that they're short center backs for sure. Even when Hedges is healthy, they're short. So you're kind of going to have to go with duct taping it all together at center back because there's not a lot of other options at this point, frankly.
And after starting the season, kind of in a very nice streak of form, and we all kind of were feeling like, oh, okay, well, this is good to know. Is Bad Bressan back?
It certainly was for one game. I've actually thought in this game that he was okay. He was trying to cover up for Martinez a lot, so he kept coming across the formation, which meant he was out of position a couple of times. So I don't think there's anything that's not like if you have Hedges back with him or if Martinez is healthy and with him, I think he's probably fine. They keep making him captain, so I think that's fairly telling how they value him. So I'm not super worried about Bressan. Look, he's not a world beater. I mean, you're not going to win MLS Cup with him, but It's okay. If he's my third guy, he's great.
Yeah.
Which is what he's supposed to
He
be.
needs to rein it in a little bit and be more careful around the box because there's too many fouls, giving away a couple of penalties. Yeah.
Yeah, overreaching Brisson, over energetic Brisson is not what we like. We like calm and Brisson.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We did see Eddie Manjoma kind of cruise forward a little more in this particular game. So is that getting better?
Dan, you want to take this one?
I mean, just the fact that he joint led the team in key passes with Andres Ricarte until he was bizarrely taken off at half time.
Now I know why. Now I remember why Buzz let you answer this question, because this is where Dan's scintillating anger showed up in the group chat after watching the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just sitting there, I was watching the game and kind of like on the eye test, I was like, that's weird because he's been getting forward. He hasn't really been getting beat too bad. They haven't really been targeting Dallas's right side over much, which of course when Hollinshead then gets moved over, they do. I was watching this the morning after the game, so I pulled up who scored while I was kind of typing as I was watching the game, and it's like, sure enough, he's there, three key passes, tied with Ricarte. I was thinking, did Lucci not notice what he's actually doing? Did he just think that, did he just kind of panic too much there? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, this is another one of these mystifying subs because this was a progression step forward game for Magellan for just half the game. The other stat that I particularly like, other than the key passes, is one called scoring actions, which essentially is like, it's not just passing. It's like if you do something that leads to a scoring opportunity. And Munjoma, with just half of the game, was third on the team for the whole game for this scoring creating actions. So it's, this was the breakthrough, not the breakthrough, but it was a step forward in the progression we've been talking about with him. And Lucci yanked him at halftime to bring on Eddie Munjoma, not bring on Johnny Nelson, when you're down to a couple of goals already. It's like, how's Johnny Nelson the answer for being down goals? He's not. So it's like to put Ryan on the right and take off Eddie, who was at that point one of the most influential players on the field in terms of creating opportunities in the offensive third. So it's not all this is Lucci's fault. That one was definitely Lucci's fault. It's his tendency to make these mystifying subs again.
And then you break two positions because Ryan then goes missing for 35 minutes until you move him back over to the left. And by that point, the game's just gone. And, he's going to have 10 minutes just adjusting to the position, which is the final 10 minutes of the game. It just made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, down
if
goals.
If you're going to do that, you bring on Emma Tomasi. You let him have a run at it and say, well, maybe he'll be a little bit more attacking.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if you want goals, help bring on Emma. That would have been the answer.
All right, so it's been promoted and mentioned many times. Buzz has a 5-point plan. Yeah. Mr. Carrick, present said plan.
Okay, 5-point plan to make this team at least competitive in the Western Conference. This is not going to win you MLS Cup. Nobody get excited.
Plan point number 5.
Yeah. So we're dealing with the context of the team as it is now. We're dealing with the Hunts. So the answer isn't go sign Messi. I mean, that's stupid, right? We're trying to be real.
Because your PowerPoint side definitely has a picture of Messi on it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ignore the Messi picture on the PowerPoint.
This is Getty Images and a watermark across it.
Yeah. So number one is that either you have to wait for Eddie Manjoma's progression.
Wait, hold on. Is this number 5 or number 1?
This is number 1.
So we're going from number 1 to number 5.
Yeah, but they're not in order of importance. They're just in order I wrote them down.
Well, let me do this over again.
A.
Plan point number 1.
Number 1, yeah. Okay, so either the bottom line is that you have to fix right back, because if everyone's healthy, center back is fine, left back is fine, goalie is fine, right back is not there. So either you wait for Eddie Manjoma to progress, which is going to be probably half the season, which, by the way, we said at the beginning of the season, or you go ahead with Emma Tuomasi and wait for his progression, or you go buy a player. Go find a player that can fix the spot. Number 1 is fix right back. Okay?
Point number 2.
Number 2, Paxton is going to start and become a starter and take over the left wing position. In other words, Paxton will fix left wing. Okay, that's point number 2.
Number 3.
Number 3, you have to bench Franco Jara. Now, you remember earlier in the year, I said that Lucci would need to let him have 5-6 games because he's this veteran presence. You got to let him have the run. You have to let him have a real opportunity to do it. Well, we're 7 games in. He played 6 of 7. That's a real opportunity. You bench him. Jesus isn't healthy, so you give Pepe 1, 2, 3 games, whatever it takes, until Jesus is ready to start, and then Jesus basically starts the rest of the year. So that's item 3, bench Jara for Jesus.
Plan point number 4.
Number 4, we've talked all year about how the surprise sell of Thiago Santos, it made business sense. We get that. It left them without a real 6. Number 4 is in the next window. You have to sign the guy from Argentina, or if not him, somebody else. I think it's going to be the guy from Argentina. I think that's a real deal. You got to sign a real 6. You can't do this with Tanner as a 6.
Okay. And then Buzz's plan to fix this thing, point number 5.
Yeah, number 5 is that there's not enough center backs on this team. And that was from the beginning of the season. I've actually been talking about this because even if you play 4 at the back, you need 2 center backs and you need 3 backups, not 2. And right now they have 1.5 because we don't know whether Nkosi Tafari is any good or not. So even if Tafari is legit, and we're going to hopefully find out, you still need at least 1 more center back on this roster. And Cheston Shea is gone, so it's not him. He's not coming back. So you're going to have to get at least 1 more center back because Hedges is really old. Bressan is crazy and throws his body around everywhere. Martinez is clearly hurt and was coming off of a season anyway. So you need another center backup other than Tafari and Bressan, who theoretically are your backups. So that's the 5-point plan. If you do those 5 things, thank you. If you do those
sound effects.
Yeah. If you do those 5 things, this team will be back to where it has been the last 2 seasons, and you'll be competing for a playoff spot.
All right.
That's an amazing PowerPoint.
Thank you. Ignore the Messi photo. Messi is not the answer.
Okay.
And the weird applause at the end there.
Yeah, it was very nice, Buzz.
It's quality, yeah.
All right, I want to go back through 5 through 1, and I want to ask you a
Sure.
couple questions about each of these things because I agree with you. I think this is a great 5-point plan. First thing, it's funny you mentioned this because as you were talking about getting another center back, it seemed obvious to me the solution, which is why don't they sell Justin Shea to Bayern and then loan him back to the team? Whatever the machination is, why isn't Justin Shea getting games in MLS here in Dallas and his future is still in Germany?
Well, for some reason, that idea of loaning a player back, while everybody always mentions it, and I've even heard Dallas coaches mention it, it's never actually happened. Not that I can remember. Has anyone ever been loaned back to the team?
Well, not that I can think of, but here's what I wonder. Is this a function of Justin as a player and his agent and his people going, yeah, why would we go back to Dallas? That's not good enough for us. There's better opportunities staying in Europe. Or is it some other contractual issue? Is it a personal thing that Justin wouldn't want to do that? Or is it something more contractually based?
Well, it's going to be based on the fact that Bayern's going to feel that they can develop him better than anybody else, and they think that that's going to be in their Bayern 2 team. Now, their Bayern 2 team just got relegated out of the Bundesliga 3, so they're now going to be playing in the regional leagues. It'll be interesting to see how Bayern reacts to that. They might actually decide that it might be better to loan Justin somewhere. Before that team got relegated, I would say no way he comes back once they buy him, because they'll want to keep him there. They'll want to keep him in like they did with Richards. They'll want to have him in their camp for their senior team so that they can bring him in, like Dallas does, bring him in a little bit now and then, get those tastes with the first team, and then have him mostly play with the second team. But I'm very curious to see how they're going to react to the fact that their reserves got relegated, because they don't want to play that team in the actual U23 Bundesliga. They're like the only club that doesn't do that.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting summer. I don't know that, like, if you loan Shea back, he's not going to come back here and start every game. Right? He would just be a depth piece, and he would just sit here doing nothing. They would rather keep him there.
Is he better than Bressan?
No. But they would rather keep him there playing. Like, the team they have for him to play in is better than North Texas, at least in their minds. right? So they're not going to send him back here and let him play for North Texas. They're not going to send him back here and let him sit and do nothing. They're going to keep him there and keep him playing where they can watch him. So that's why he'll never come back. And
All right.
No, he's not better than Brisson, not right now. He might be better than Nkosi. We don't know. Yeah, we haven't seen Tafari play hardly at all. He was pretty close to him last year for North Texas, and we haven't seen either one of those guys in quite a while now.
So you seem to be sold on the idea that the number 6, the Argentinian guy that Lanús is unhappy with, is coming this way. That's all the indicators. That's the signing.
That's the signing. I've got some scuttlebutt domestically. I can't report anything officially. This is all water cooler talk, but I'm hearing it's very legit. And when you combine that chatter with the reports, I'm convinced that the guy's coming. Now, I don't know. I'm just convinced, and based on all the stuff I'm getting, that's.
And we also have zero idea as to his qualities or skill sets or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I got nothing. I mean, I've Googled him. The people that I've talked to seem to think that he's a legit 100% real tough guy 6. A little bit of a bastard. We'll see what happens when he shows up. So.
All right. Number 3 was benching Hara, which I think we all agree with. But let me ask Dan. I want to hear Dan's opinion first. Do you think there's any chance in hell Lucci has the power to bench Hara for 3 straight games?
Ooh, 3. That's a good.
Or whatever the amount of time it is to qualify for Buzz's fix.
No.
Okay, Buzz.
Man, I'd like to think he does. We're going to find out because this guy's been utter crap. So I totally get, listen, I don't think Pepe's ready to be the starter. I think that Pepe already is as good as Hara. If you had to start Pepe for the next, 27 games, I'd be okay with that. Mm-hmm. I do agree that mentally he's not ready for that load, maturity-wise. He's not ready for that load. So I'm okay with him still being mostly a bench guy. If you give him a couple of starts right now, that'd be fine. Just sort of as you wait for Jesus, that'd be fine for me. I think the answer has to be Jesus. So you're basically stuck. I don't know that Lucci will bench Hara for Pepe more than a game. If Jesus is healthy and Jesus is who's a legit senior national team player, right? We know that. So that's a guy you can bench for Hara. Bench Hara for. I hope. Oh God. We're going to find out, aren't we?
Well, yeah, and they got a couple of weeks to bicker and fight about it in the office.
I know.
Number 2 is starting Pax. Do you actually think Pax is ready to go for 46? A full hour or so?
Well, I think that if you were going to start him on the 19th, I think you had to get him 45 in the last game, and they did. He'll get a couple of days off here. Like they had 4 days off this week. They'll probably push him really hard for fitness for like a week or so, and then let him relax a little bit and see how he reacts. I think it's a perfect opportunity back home against Minnesota to start him and see if you can get 60 minutes out of him. I think that's the perfect time frame.
All right. Do you think he got 45 minutes in Colorado because that was A, the plan, or B, because the wheels had flown off?
No, I think that was the plan. Oh, like I said, I went back statistically and I looked at it, and Vargas was actually the best of the 3 frontline players. I thought he wasn't having a great day, but it wasn't an utter horrific day of all days like some of the other dudes were having. But I honestly think that was the plan going in, that Paxton was going to come in at halftime no matter what.
Okay. And then number 1 was right back. Is it a failure, or is it unfair to say that in terms of all the other roster building problems that we're picking up on, maybe one of the ones that we haven't talked enough about was the failure to go out and sign a proper right back for this team?
Well, I think they wanted to try and do what they do, which is progress somebody. And I really felt genuinely they had 2 good candidates in Emma and Munjoma. And then Emma got sick, And the other side of the coin is that Lucci really truly believes that Nelson at left back and Ryan at right back is fine. Now, we don't. None of us think that's true. But it's clear that he thinks that's true, right? And we said all along that if it was going to be Munjoma, he needs half the season. So you just got to wait for him, or Emma, one or the other, whichever one it's going to be,
Yeah, and this is one of those weird oddities, and this happens in watching games and coaches, and the differences between those of us that watch a team for entertainment versus those of us that get paid to manage a team. But when I watch Ryan play on the left, I see a guy that's adventurous, gets forward, he hustles, and he's confident and has really good game. And then the instant he moves over to the right side of the field, he evaporates. And that's what I thought was interesting in this game. He started on the left. He was pretty dynamic, was doing his thing, moved to the right. He evaporated, disappeared, and then they moved him back to the left, and there he was again. And that seems so obvious to me.
Yeah, I can't explain this one. I agree with you. And even Ryan, like last year, said that he was so uncomfortable on the right. So I don't understand why Lucci thinks it's fine. I really don't. And I've actually literally asked him, and he's like, "Oh no, he's great." I'm like, "Okay, I think he's horrible, but whatever. Everyone sees the game differently, I guess." I really, sometimes there are points and there are things that Lucci does that completely mystify me, and this is one of those things. Again, Lucci's not without fault. Some of this stuff is not his fault. It's not his fault that they decided to go with Munjoma or Tuamasi as the right back. They could have gone out and got somebody. It's not his fault that COVID cost Munjoma a whole season with North Texas rather than just like 3 games right at the very end. His progression would be completely different if he would have played 30 games for North Texas. So I think if you just give Munjoma time, he's going to be fine. It may be too late by then. I mean, we'll see. So this is what they do, is develop right backs.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, as happens in these situations, the whole hashtag campaign of Lucci out continues to grow and catch more and more noise. And we have these conversations about how committed the Hunt brothers are to Lucci long term. And you and I think, Dan, you've been a part of this too. We've had these conversations that the real interesting story for me is if you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have said, oh my gosh, the Hunt brothers will keep Lucci in this position way longer than any of us will ever feel comfortable with. This thing will have to be burning to the ground before they get rid of him. But I now think that the interesting story to keep an eye on is what happens at the end of this season, and how much Zanata's influence may or may not be growing in this team. Because I just have this weird sneaking suspicion that if there is going to be a coaching change, depending on how the season goes, that they'll get rid of Lucci, they'll figure out a way to exit that with him, and then this team will end up with some, South American, Brazilian, Argentinian coach that most of us have never heard of before, and it'll all be the handiwork of Zanata. Yeah,
Lucci's not Zanata's guy. The one thing I have come to believe for sure is that I think Lucci thinks he's coaching for his job. I think Lucci thinks he's in trouble, and that Lucci thinks he's under insane pressure, and he's kind of cracking a little bit with some of these decisions. I think I think if you put yourself in the mindset of you're Lucci and he's worried and he's panicking, he's making nervous moves and moves that he's rolling the dice on some of these things because he's trying desperately. Some of these things begin to maybe make sense,
Yeah, no, I would because what I do wonder, because I think that then we should remind everybody was Lucci was named coach well before Zanata showed up. Zanata's this guy that comes from South America in a place like Gremio, and he takes over this position, and the first thing he's confronted with is a coach who has no coaching experience. And I have to think he probably in his head thinks he's got a better solution for that position.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
Of course he does. Yeah, no, he's for sure the X Factor. And he probably has Dan Hunt's ear, and I'm sure he's in there telling him all the time whether he thinks Lucci's doing a good job or not. So, Clark and Dan are going to listen to Zanata. He's the guy that's doing all these moves and making them all this money. We think all these moves that are happening, a lot of them have a business side now that we've never really seen before. Mm-hmm. That's clearly a Zanata influence. I think there's no question that Zanata's got a coaching influence coming. Whether it's to retain Lucci or get rid of Lucci, we'll see.
So this time last year, what was on a scale of 1 to 10, what was the Lucci hot seat temperature? 10 being the hottest.
Oh, 3? I thought it was really low. I thought he had no pressure at all.
And what is it now?
5. I actually don't. I don't think he's in as much trouble as Lucci thinks he's in.
Really?
I just don't. I think, I think that they'll look at this team and they'll say, that it's not Lucci's fault that like some of these things that are going wrong are they've kind of handcuffed him in a lot of ways, and I'm sure Lucci's expressed that. I mean, I don't know how Dan feels about it, but Dan Hunt or Dan and our Dan Kuruk, Kuruk. I burped in the middle of that. Kuruk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
see, he's been drinking that whiskey. He's drunk.
This shit is good, dude.
That's why he's feisty and fighting
Did he
with
just
me
call
earlier.
me a Keurig?
He did.
You're a cup of coffee, my friend.
That's creepy. Actually, while you were talking about all that, I was trying to figure out who was Gremio coach while Zanotto was there. Since, you've got... I mean, there's so many links, right? There's Prasan coming from Gremio. There's Felipe coming from Gremio. There's Thiago Santos going to Gremio. Well, Renato Gaucho, the coach at Gremio at the time, lost his job 6 weeks ago. He is a free agent.
Cue the mysterious music.
And he was the coach the entire time. Andre Zanotto was there.
What's his name?
Renato Gaucho.
Oh, he's a cowboy. Even better.
Man, put him on the betting wall.
Yeah.
All right. Renato Gaucho. All right, so we've talked about the crummy game, the loss. Buzz and I have fought over the quality of this team. Buzz has presented his 5-point plan.
Yeah.
Anything else that we want to talk about? I mean, the good news is we get a break now. We get to go, now we get to fight about the national team. Anything else we want to talk about? Colorado 3, Dallas 0.
Well, nothing from that game. That pretty much covered it for me.
Okay. A couple of things. By the way, and you mentioned it earlier, Buzz, the good John Leonard wrote a kick-ass stats-based article about how this team has been performing with Lucci and the horror piece of it. If you're into the statistical aspect of it, go check that out over at thirddegree.net. And just when you read it in this kind of voice like this, because that's kind of like how John talks. Okay. A couple of things. What, Dan?
That's not nice. Yeah,
No, it's not. Okay.
No.
I didn't say anything. I was holding my tongue.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of things not related specifically to Dallas. I want to talk. Can we talk kits for a few seconds?
Sure.
Always.
So, have you guys seen? And I gotta get one of these things. The 100th anniversary of the Japanese national team shirt that
You
Adidas
won't
made.
be able to get one.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Why
They
can't
are
I get
only
one?
being sold in Japan.
I might have. Oh no. Do I know anybody in Japan? I'll have to think about that. Have you
There's
seen
also
them?
a very limited run. They are so nice.
And didn't they come in like a box or something, like a wood box?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't seen them, they are a baby blue kit with the Japanese flag for the crest. Just a very simple, they're about as basic as they get, except they have this very handsome white collar, really classic looking shirt. And they didn't end up getting to wear it because I guess Jamaica wasn't able to come travel for the game due to COVID or something like that.
So if you see one in this country, it's probably from DH Gate.
Oh, or
Which is
it's
close.
covered in COVID, so you need to stay away from it. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to make mention, I thought this was really cool. They were making a big deal of it this week, that in FIFA 21, the EA Sports video game, they now have the original set of 1996 MLS jerseys represented in there, and they have super buff, not fat in any way, Paxton Pomacall wearing a form-fitting Dallas Burn, the classic 96 Dallas Burn jersey. But did you guys also pick up on the very weird, emotionally conflicting fact that representing the Colorado Rapids is none other than FC Dallas Academy grad and original great Kellen Acosta?
Well, great for Kellen, but also Paxton's not anywhere near that jacked as he's in that game.
So two things about that. It's only in FIFA Ultimate Team, so that's bullshit. It's not in the real game. And also, for some reason, DC United was left out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered about
Greatest
this.
kit in MLS history.
Yeah, I saw the Paxton picture, and then I saw the other one. I was so focused on the fact they chose Kellen to be the person that just was so weird in so many ways. I did not pick up on the fact that I thought something was missing, but I never did identify the fact that did we know why DC was left out?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know if
I
anybody had
think
talked about it.
It's kind of one of those mysteries, like the the Metro Stars being left out of the MLS since '96 collection.
Interesting. Okay. And then moving into other MLS news, since we last did a podcast, the big crazy story about Inter Miami getting all of the fines and cheating, and last year ending up in last place despite the fact that they had 5 DPs. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to express yourself or comment on that in some way.
Well, it was such a horrible bit of rule breaking that they're now going to let them have Messi.
For $60 million a year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the thing I'll point out about the Messi thing, and I have no idea how much legitimacy, and for those who are not aware, in one of the Spanish newspapers, they leaked a plan that apparently was in place to re-sign Messi for Barcelona for another 2 seasons, and then he would come play for Inter for 2 seasons before returning to Barcelona as an ambassador for the club. And the entire plan was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and if you were to do the math, he would be making $63 million playing for Inter Miami. But the thing that I thought was interesting, the timing of it aligns very nicely with when the new TV media deal for MLS would take place. And I could make the argument that if it was the thing that triggered that kind of deal for Major League Soccer, you should write whatever check it takes to get Messi in the league, because that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what it would take.
Yeah. No, if Messi coming here on that number gets a new huge mega TV deal that this league needs, that's totally worth every dime. And if you want to go back to the 5 DPs question, I remember watching Miami, and they have Blaise Matuidi or whatever his name is in the midfield, and I thought, oh my God, who is this absolutely craptastic holding mid that Miami has? This guy is horrible. And then looking him up and seeing he was like this World Cup winner, and I'm like, well, man, they got this short end of the stick on that deal, man. That guy's terrible.
Yeah, he hasn't played well for them.
No.
Yeah. And then there's all kinds of craziness going on up in Toronto. Nobody seems happy with Chris Armas. Some of the players are speaking out. And then there's the crazy story about Josie Altidore. Now, I just want to plant a seed with you guys, because eventually somebody's going to say this. How would it, and I'm not suggesting this is a good idea. I'm asking you. Would it ever make sense for Dallas to figure out a trade to get Josie Altidore?
No.
I love that answer, Dan.
Nah, if you're going to take a striker from Toronto, I'd rather Don Boyer.
Okay.
The problem is that the Hunts, listen, we know the Hunts are relatively budget conscious, and Altidore is on $3 million.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
I don't even mean the money part of it, right? Because the money falls into that space where it's just coming out of their pocket and doesn't affect the salary cap and the team in any way.
Yeah.
It's not a drag on it that way. I just wonder, what do you think about Josie as a starting striker for this team? Is he the kind of guy you would want? I don't think he is.
No, he's better than Hara, but at this point, your best option is Jesus. Jesus is still a viable national team player.
Okay.
You just go with Jesus. He's perfectly fine. I mean, unless you're going to go get Funes Mori, which case we can talk. But otherwise, just ride Jesus. Or Pepe, if Pepe's ready. Pepe's not ready. But if Pepe were ready for 30 games, go with Pepe.
And then the other big kind of rumor that happened, I think was it The Athletic or was it Jeff Carlisle that first announced the word that MLS is trying to start their own third division MLS2 league?
I think it was The Athletic. It was Pablo and The Athletic.
And Paul. Yeah, I think it was those two guys. So I know you've already answered this question 1,000 times, Buzz, but I'm sure there's people listening. What does this mean for North Texas? Where would they play? Is it a different team? Blah, 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 blah.
Well, it depends. And some of the stuff that was in this most recent article was different than what has been talked about before. So the change actually changes how North Texas might function. And the big change that was in this article was, up until now, the scuttlebutt has been this would be like a U23 league with maybe like a couple of overage exemptions or something, so you could put down a guy for rehab or whatever. Well, now the stuff in The Athletic says that it's just going to be a complete open Division 3, which is equivalent to USL 1. So it'll be the exact same level where North Texas plays already. And the fact that you can use the team however you want. If you want to play a U20 team, you can. If you want to play a bunch of 29-year-old Connor Doyle's, you can, however you want to use it. So from the Dallas perspective, when it was just going to be a U23 team and every team would have been a bunch of young prospects who are all pretty skilled, that's not super appealing to North Texas for Dallas's purpose. Excuse me a second. They like to be tested differently. They want to go up against varieties of teams. They want to play against a bunch of 20 or 30-year-old guys who are fighting to put food on the table. They want to go up against a team that's like a track team. They want to go up against a different team that moves the ball around like they do. They want variety. Well, when it was all U23, that maybe wasn't so appealing, and it seemed like what they were going to do was take their U19 team and bail on the U19 league. This is just discussion, mind you. I'm not reporting anything. And play it up probably as a U23 team. And then you mix in a little bit of like a college guys. You mix in a little bit of North Texas guys who maybe aren't playing with that side. But as I say, this change in the league now, maybe it changes things. Maybe now you're going to see what kind of teams are in this thing. And the article even talks about MLS being willing to bring in teams from outside of Major League Soccer, like bringing in your Charleston Battery if they have a team at that level, or your Greenville Triumph if they want to come in. So you're going to see some variety. So that may end up being more appealing to North Texas. So there now is a big wait and see kind of flag on this whole thing until they determine exactly what kind of league we're going to get. Sorry, I just knocked over my microphone. And what time of teams are in it. Let me put down an edit since I just knocked over my mic. Yeah. So stay tuned, because I think it actually, given what they're now saying, there's a possibility, I think, that we could see North Texas leave USL 1. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I've seen comments and different kind of reactions to this news that and maybe I'm inferring this and nobody's explicitly implying it, which is it may actually behoove behoove USL to lose the MLS teams, because for reasons I'm not clear on, the MLS teams are bogging down the USL 1 and championship, or
they don't draw.
They don't. Oh, because
because it's like everyone looks at them like it's a bunch of reserves. Who cares? So like in both USL Championship and USL 1, the MLS teams are almost always the bottom 10 or 15 teams in attendance in both those leagues. It's 10 MLS teams in there. There's only like one MLS team that does any good at all. I can't remember which one it is. It's probably Tacoma Defense. So and also, MLS wants to control things. Mm-hmm. They want to have stuff under their umbrella. So they're going to pull in all their teams, and they're going to offer other teams to come in. It's possible this thing could kill, USL 1 in a roundabout way if they can pull enough teams out of it. The real interesting question would be, what will happen with the MLS teams that run USL Championship teams? Because this is going to be a Division 3, not Division 2. So it's a league lower down than USL Championship. Will LA Galaxy 2, will Atlanta 2, will those teams stay in USL Championship, or are they going to come down to what is ostensibly a lower league of play?
And the thing is, the third division sanctioning is really just down to stadium requirements and the geographic footprint. The standard is whatever the teams are going to make it. The same way, North Texas came in and blew away a bunch of teams that just, were glorified MPSL level.
And am I reading it incorrectly to at least come away from these articles with the suggestion that maybe a Solar or a Dallas Texans could even throw a team in this level?
The leagues, the story says that MLS is going to take in teams outside of MLS, but USL, to be Division 3, as Dan says, there are stadium requirements. You have to have, I think it's 5,000 seats minimum, or in that ballpark. You have to have a certain amount of budget. You have to have a certain amount, these are things that Solar or Texans don't have. So unless those two clubs go out and build like a significant size venue or cut a deal to play in somebody else's venue, like North Texas does, with the Globe Life, it's not likely that an academy is going to make that kind of commitment, unless it's more likely that you would see like an NPSL team or ESL 2 team say, well, if it's MLS, there's more stability there. So we're willing to maybe risk a little money and make the jump and see what happens,
Okay.
Because there's some volatility to USL still these days, particularly at that level. That league's had teams coming and going a little bit. So, and this is, again, more volatility right here. So,
well, then that kind of segs nicely into the next topic, which was the news that Dante Sealy probably really pissed off the FC Dallas front office.
That kid.
By posting a picture of the PSV training facility where he is currently at. And then we got the famous he's there on trial out of the side of the mouth line from the club.
Yeah,
which
2
is
weeks
always
stint, yeah.
Yeah, which Buzz always reminds us is when they open their mouth, they're probably lying. Buzz, you appear to have gotten the word that this is a done deal and he's not coming back.
Not done. I knew he was going to PSV and that's why he wasn't in Colorado. But I wasn't in a position where I could talk about it. And then he put the picture out, and I was like, oh, well, if he's going to put a picture out, then yeah, I can confirm that's why he wasn't in Colorado, And then, once the picture went out, then I got a couple of whispers of it's probably a loan deal. Probably. So, again, the club's like he's there for a 2-week thing. But I've been telling you guys for 3 years that when he turned 18, he's gone.
He thinks he's a European player.
Yeah. I mean, he's been to PSV at least once, if not 2 or 3 times. He's been to Sevilla. I think it was the other team. The kid's got happy feet. He's been wanting to go forever. His agent wants him to go. His dad wants him to go.
He's got a passport.
Yeah, he's gone. He's got a TT passport. He's gone. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, could he be back? Yes. But all signs are that this is the PSV deal finally happening. I figure they want to bring him in and get a last look before the actual window opens, which is in a month from now, so... Well, let me put it this way. If he comes back, I'm going to be shocked if he comes back.
Okay. Now, this is where I think Dan can be super helpful because I do think that we as a soccer nation tend to be very insecure about this stuff because one of the questions that I get a lot, and I know you do too, Buzz, and I'm sure you do too, Dan, which is, well, wait a second. If PSV thinks Dante Sealy is such a badass, why isn't he playing for FC Dallas on the regular? And why isn't he starting in MLS? And it's because the answer to that question is far more complicated than just saying, well, he's not going to go to PSV and just start playing, right?
Yeah, though you mentioned it, there's been so many Facebook and Twitter threads, and Buzz just put out a quick burn for the patrons after getting the request on this. And, PSV aren't buying Dante Sealy, the player, today. They're buying, they're looking to buy Dante Sealy, the player that he could be in 3, 4, 5 years' time. And if he doesn't live up to that potential, then they just make a tidy profit. The same way when we were talking about why Brian Reynolds' value was so high compared to Reggie, because Juventus and Roma were looking at the next Alphonso Davies potentially, and if not, just a guy who's come from a big name club system who costs a good bit of money. It all kind of ties into what Buzz said earlier about Pepe not necessarily being ready for 30 MLS starts. You've got to kind of space these players out and say that Dante Sealy right now isn't a 90-minute MLS winger, and he's not a 90-minute Eredivisie winger either. But by the end of the year, he could be a 90-minute MLS winger. By the next couple of years, he could be making some appearances off the bench for PSV.
Yeah, make no mistake, Dante Sealy is not going to be in PSV's first team in a month. I mean, he's going to play on their U23 team or whatever. In terms of pure level, it's going to be a slight regression in the sense that he's going to go from the senior team to the under 23 team when he goes there. But as Dan said, they're buying him for his potential, or if they buy him. This is still a big if here. This is a guy, they're good at developing wingers. In terms of the U.S. national team and his progression for the U.S., you love this deal because this is exactly the kind of club that could turn him into a superstar. So, these European clubs are interested in the FC Dallas players. They think they can turn into superstars. They're not interested in the guys that are grinders. They're not interested in winning Brandon Cervania. They don't want that guy. They want these guys that can turn it. They want Brian Reynolds, turn him into a $100 million player.
Right, and if you are Dante, it makes more sense to make more money and live the European life and sit on the bench in Holland than it does to do it in Frisco.
Yeah, he probably feels, and I'm sure he's correct, that he could reach a higher level coming through PSV than he can playing through FC Dallas. This is a better opportunity if you're Dante Sealy. There's not any question about that. He's going to make first. He would make the first team sooner. He already has. I think he was close to getting a start at some point in the next, month or so here with FC Dallas. But if PSV calls, that's a no-brainer, man. You're jumping on that. There's an opportunity to be. You could be at the highest levels of Europe within a couple of years if things go the way you think they should. You're betting on yourself.
Do we have any idea what the transfer fee is rumored to be at?
No. I heard loan. Like always, it'll probably be a year loan or whatever with a buy negotiated in. Same crap they always do. Sell on percentage. It'll be something like that.
Okay.
Who knows? I mean, Dante Sealy's been highly thought of for a long time, right? He's got the genetics, got the bloodline. He's got everything you want, all the raw tools that they get super excited about. It ought to be a relatively good. It's not going to be Brian Reynolds good because Sealy wasn't tearing up MLS like Reynolds was, but it'll be along the lines of Richards or Che will be, somewhere between 1, 3, 4 million probably. I don't know. He's an attacker, so maybe a little higher. We'll see.
Okay. And then you mentioned his name, Dan. Did anybody else see the quote from Reggie Cannon during some of his national team interviews? He still appears to be very bitter about his time here in Dallas.
Very. Very.
That's what we got, very.
Yeah. We kind of talked about it a little bit before we started recording. It was kind of like, he's talking about not necessarily having support when he was the next guy up and the new guy, and that he got to be that support for Brian Reynolds. And I'm not really sure what he was talking about, because in terms of playing, he was playing next to players like Matt Hedges and with guys like Ryan Hollinshead. Two guys who we know are basically coaches on the field. And he spoke, in his couple of seasons, he spoke extensively about, the benefit of having Hernan Grana and working with him in training and stuff like that. So, unless he's talking about some kind of a support system like outside, off the field, I'm just kind of not seeing it.
The only thing I can think of is the way the whole thing ended, where there was a little bit of contract problems they didn't like. But also, you remember when the whole Black Lives Matter thing went down, and he got the whole "we want you to read this letter" thing that they denied saying. Maybe that's what he meant by I didn't get the support. Yeah. I didn't have the club behind me like I thought I should have. That's probably what he's talking about. Maybe. I'm like Dan. At first, I was like, "What is he talking about? I didn't have support," and that's kind of what I can come up with.
And maybe as well, he went, like, we know he went through a pretty torrid time with the transfer, with the Russian club coming in and confusing things, and I think you talked a little about at the time about FC Dallas is holding out for more money and this, that, and the other, whereas the Reynolds move always seemed to have a direction and an end point, even if there was a little swerve at the end with Juventus and Roma. It seemed more like FC Dallas were kind of supporting the transfer, supporting the interests maybe of the player, and not trying to force him to, I don't know, some shithole in Russia.
Yeah.
Well, I am very much looking forward to this next few days, because I think we're going to learn a lot about Reggie Cannon's level in these national team games. I'm assuming he's going to end up starting on the right for the United States and against Honduras, and then whoever they end up. I'm assuming Mexico, assuming they get past Honduras and they get to the final of this Nations League tournament. It'll be really interesting to see how Reggie's progressed. Because I kind of got the sense he didn't have his best game in that game against the Swiss, although the deflection really was kind of a fluky deal. In the little bits and pieces I saw of the game, there is a considerable gap in his game versus Serginho Dest. I mean, the difference between those two dudes is pretty noticeable.
Yeah, right back is crazy because they use Dest on the left a lot, but other than Cannon, you obviously have Reynolds, and now you have The guy in Turkey. Oh gosh, why am I brain farting on his name? He was at Newcastle.
Oh, Yedlin.
Yedlin. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I couldn't get that name out of my brain. Yedlin's also in that mix too. Berhalter said something about rewarding him for his good play he's had in Turkey. So that's a deep spot, and that's, I think, less of the Gold Cup, but more once we get to the qualifiers, who's going to get called up at that point is going to be, I think, more telling as they head towards the World Cup.
Don't forget that was Tyler Adams' interesting position too.
Yeah, I think Tyler's so vital to the midfield, though, now that I don't think that he's out of the picture right back, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't want him to go back to playing that formation. Okay. All right. Anything else we need to touch on, fellas? We've gone through a lot today, and I want to make sure children understand Daddy and Daddy were not fighting earlier. We were just having a disagreement, and we're comfortable in our relationship enough to work through those disagreements with words.
That were brought to you by Soccer 90.
Yeah.
Hey, there was the Chisholm Trail Classico second leg at the weekend. Denton curb stomped Fort Worth again, 7-2.
So Damon gets to post videos of him sexually stroking the belt again.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, and John put up a nice recap of it all. So,
all right.
Yay.
All right, good stuff. Okay. Buzz, you got any last thing you want to throw out there?
Keep a small eye, if you're a North Texas watcher, on two players. Alejandro, who's the Mexican-Brazilian combo kid, has taken over as the 10 and really has jumped to the forefront of scoring chances created and such stats as that. So keep an eye on that guy. And also Kaiser Gomes, who has done enough that he already is getting, and not just because of the injuries, he was getting first team training invites already. He's only been here like 3 weeks. He's this big, huge, massive center back. So those are two guys to watch if you get a chance to watch them play.
Okay. Now, do we have plans for a pod next week? Because
Yes.
Dallas doesn't play until the 19th, that home game against Minnesota. So we'll find something. We'll talk national team stuff, or Buzz will have another 5 points planned.
No, we're going to talk about, is this team better now than it was 3 or 4 years ago? And also, at the suggestion of one of our patrons, can you make a team of ex-FC Dallas players that would beat this team just from players inside MLS?
Wait a second. Ask that question because I want to make sure that I think about this.
Yep.
So, former FC Dallas and Burn players.
Yeah, if you mix together guys currently still in the league that used to play for FC Dallas, can you make a team that's better than the team they have now? And
but is there even enough of those guys even exist?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure there are.
Really?
Drew Moore, Zimmerman, Yoloa, McCarthy, Maxi Urruti, Breck Shea, Fafa Pico. I mean, keep going.
All right.
You get a whole
Interesting
bunch of
question.
Kellen Acosta.
Interesting.
Kellen Acosta. I mean, there's plenty of dudes out there that are, We'll talk about it next time.
I was just going to throw out 10 TEDx, but all right. I guess that's
he doesn't play anymore.
He doesn't. No.
He does in Peter's mind.
Yeah, he can coach.
He's living large in Hawaii, my friend. He's doing very well. So Dallas doesn't play until the 19th. That game is will be in Frisco at 7:30 and all of that. All right, so let's get back to this. As Dan rightfully noted, Third Degree of the podcast is brought to you by Soccer 90. The new international club jerseys are arriving this entire month of June, but already the Juventus home jersey is available now, and the aforementioned Weston McKennie home jersey is also available in both youth and adult sizes. And because you are a very special Third Degree listener, you get 25% off your purchase. You just got to use the code Third Degree when you check out at soccer90.com. Dan, thank you for being the glue that holds this fighting thing together.
That's a very Oscar Pereira phrase.
What is? The glue?
The glue.
All right. Say it like Oscar would have said.
No.
You're very smart and astute.
I've had his death stares too many times to do something like that.
He didn't want to do that. All right, Buzz, you know I love you, man.
I know. Sometimes you frustrate me, that's all,
Well, sometimes we don't agree on things, and I just want to push you on them sometimes.
Apparently.
And it makes the podcast more entertaining, I think.
Does it?
Okay. You know what? We'll let the Patreons and listeners tell us if they enjoy it when you and I bicker at each other about stuff like this.
Fair enough.
All right?
Yeah.
It's not fun when we agree on everything, is it?
Well, I don't know. Sure.
Okay. No. Conflict is good for the entertainment value.
Yeah, Manchester United still sucks.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Noted.
Okay, I don't want to even get into that.
Yeah.
And thank you, FC Dallas Curious. Oh, don't forget to get your FC Dallas Curious shirt. How many have we sold of those, Buzz? Or you sold of those?
I'm not on the site. I'd have to go look.
You're up to like 2,300 of them or something, right?
Yeah. 2,000. Yep.
2,000 FC Dallas Curious shirts. Yep. Thank you, FC Dallas Curious fan. We will speak to you next week on another edition of Third Degree, the podcast.
No hosts were physically harmed during the recording of this episode.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.